Hey everybody, welcome back. Aloha. This is another episode of Recovery Talk, but today's episode is a little bit different. So I'm gonna rename today Talk Story because I have my friend Heather coming on today, and we're both from Hawaii. So in Hawaii, we say Talk Story. What that means is, we just like to talk, hang out, but then that's the way we say it in Hawaii. Hey, we'll talk story, so it's gonna be recovery talk, but we're gonna be talking story. And I've known Heather for about 20 years now. I've known her. I met her years ago back on the Big Island, active in my addiction, and I partied with her before, and but now we both our paths, kind of went two different directions, and then we reconnected, and now we both sober now. So she's gonna be on. She's about to jump on right now. She's requesting me, but as always, guys, the main purpose I started doing this is to show other people that recovery is possible. Because with everything going on with the pandemic, a lot of people, don't have the same resources I had when I got sober. So this is just a good source of support and to inspire and encourage other people who are struggling with their addiction right now. So let me get her in real quick. Okay, here we go. Hey, hey!
Hi, Alika.
Hey, how's it? How are you?
Good. Howoli
Uh,
makahiko.
yeah, that's right. Oh man, it's so good to see you. It's been forever.
It's been nearly 20 years,
Yeah,
probably.
I know. That's what I was just saying, man. I've known you for so long. And I know we was talking earlier about this, but I'm pretty sure the first time when I met you, I think you weren't married to my cousin yet, but you guys were dating, and we was drinking at one bar down in Kauai High on the Big Island, and then you guys came. That's the first time I met you. But then you also had a black eye that I didn't know why. I don't know if you want to share that or not.
Yeah, well, it was probably me getting crazy and trying to do something stupid and, you know, getting
Yeah.
caught doing
You
it.
know, one thing I remember
Or
about you,
maybe I was just trying to fight somebody. I'm not sure.
no, one thing I remember about you, you were very feisty. That's one
Yeah,
thing I remember.
I had a lot of anger in my disease, that's for sure. I had a
Yeah,
lot of rage that was hidden, I believe, under all that. Yeah, for sure.
yeah,
I just when I was drunk, it was on.
yeah,
I was a completely different person.
yeah. No, I can relate. I definitely can relate. And I didn't know. I learned it in recovery though. That for me, the majority of my anger, what was behind it was fear, which I was totally unaware of. I didn't realize that, and it's like it's fear of okay, I don't want her to leave. I'm just gonna hang on to this relationship even though I'm miserable because I'm afraid of being alone. Or I love her.
Yeah.
I'm afraid she's gonna leave me and go be with somebody else. A lot of fear was behind all of my anger, or the majority, not all of it, but the vast majority for me was.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely agree with that. It was definitely fear of abandonment,
Hmm. Yeah,
fear of, yeah, getting hurt, fear of being hurt by someone,
yeah,
being vulnerable with somebody, just being transparent,
yeah.
being
That's scary,
fearful
man.
of that.
That is scary. Being honest, open, transparent.
Yeah,
That's some spooky stuff, man.
yeah, it is, especially for an alcoholic.
Yeah. And then after so this is like 20 years ago, Big Island. Then you moved back to Maui. Is that what happened?
Yes, we actually got married,
Uh huh.
in your cousin, and we moved back to Maui,
And then
where
okay.
it just progressed a lot more.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to kind of get into all your story right now. We're talking story a little bit. But so how long have you been living on Oahu? Because you're on Oahu now. Huh?
I have been living on Oahu on and off for the last nearly 10 years now.
Oh, right on. Oh,
Yeah.
that's cool.
So I actually came to high school here on Oahu. So
Oh yeah, what school you went to?
I went to Kamehameha.
Oh, Kamehameha. What? My
Yeah.
brother went to
Before,
Kamehameha.
yeah, before we had the Maui campus. So
Oh, right on.
yeah, I was very, very lucky enough
Yeah, the only experience I ever had with Kamehameha was in the 6th grade. You go to explorations.
Oh yeah,
You're there for
yeah.
like a week. Yeah. It was pretty fun.
Amazing. Yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah, but okay. So before we get started, Heather, I'm gonna ask you a few questions before you get into your story and everything, and pretty much, I guess, in a general way, tell us what you're like, what happened, and what you're like today. So how long have you been sober now?
on the 9th of December this last year, I celebrated 18 months
Oh
clean.
wow, that's a big deal, man. Oh, that's a long time too. I
It's
mean, 18 hours was hard for me.
oh my gosh, yeah,
Yeah.
18 days is a big
Yeah, it was a miracle. Honestly, for me, it was a miracle. Like one week, my goodness, I never stayed sober. Well, honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, I lived in Canada for a little bit, for almost 6 months, but I still drank. I couldn't find drugs, over there. I didn't know anybody. I had a girlfriend at that time, and she's from Canada, and that's where I lived. But okay, so you've been sober that long. That's awesome, bro. Congratulations. So. I already asked you this though, but you're from Maui, right?
Yeah, yes, I was born and raised in a small little town called Haiku on the
Oh, hey,
island.
cool. All right, right on. Okay. And then the next question is, what was your choice in drink or drug?
That it kind of changed as my drinking career changed. At first it was just like kind of beer, whatever
Hmm.
was kind of around, and then a lot of the boys used to drink whiskey, so like Jack
Oh,
Daniels was
yeah.
kind of the first exposure. And then I kind of went on that, Crown Royal, that kind of a thing. And then at
Mhm.
the end, it just turned into vodka, you know,
Yeah, me
where you
too.
really couldn't really smell it. Maybe,
Yeah, yeah. That was my drink too, vodka. Like I
yeah,
would say the last maybe 10 years of my drinking career and using,
yeah,
it was vodka because I would always wake up. Oh, I felt like I didn't even drink the night before. That's kind of how it felt compared to like darker liquors and stuff like that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Just kind of like chilled shots, was just the.
Yeah, I went from like a bottle to the handle after that, and I would just pound them straight,
Okay, yeah,
because I gotta kind of balance myself out. I'm too high. No, I'm too drunk. I'm too high. I'm too drunk. Holy crap. It's
right.
crazy. And then
Yeah,
that's basically what my life was like. But
definitely.
at this time, we can get into your story. You can tell us. I'll give you the floor to kind of just tell us, your story. I'm excited because we lost touch for years. So I'm excited to hear this.
Okay, awesome. Well, so first, I guess I wanted to say thank you, Alika, for this platform. Thank you for starting this amazing, what a great opportunity for you to touch other people, and on the Instagram, you never know who you're going to reach. Social
Yeah.
media is just amazing. So I thank God for
Mm.
that. Something that I like to do at the beginning of any of my shares that I do is I light a candle. So I'm going to light this candle. And what the lighting of this candle symbolizes for me is each and every one of us coming out of the darkness
Hmm.
of alcoholism or drug addiction or whatever it is that we might be battling, and coming into the light of recovery. And just
I
please
like
stay
that.
with us here. Stay with us in the recovery light because you're worth it. We
That's
all
right.
are worth it. We're
That's
very,
right.
very worth it, even though we don't feel that we are.
Hmm.
And I like to start with the serenity prayer, the long form. So,
Hmm.
God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardship as a pathway to peace, taking, as Jesus did, this sinful world as it is, not as I would have it, trusting that you will make all things right if I surrender to your will, so that I may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with you forever in the next. Thy will, not mine, be done. Amen.
Oh, amen, amen. Hey, man, I gotta memorize the long version too. Shucks, that's why I never said it with you.
Oh yeah, I wish you did. I know. I love it. It just kind of, I don't know, it always just brings the serenity that I need, I guess, to share. Can you
Yeah,
hear me okay?
yeah, I can hear you perfect.
Okay. Okay, awesome.
Hmm.
Okay, so let's see. I was born and raised on Maui, and as I said. I was the second oldest. I had an older sister, and I had two younger brothers. And from a very young age, we just we were raised in that environment where you didn't talk about the problems in the family.
Mm.
And we went to church, so there was always that stigma of we have to put on this facade, or we had to be this perfect family, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because from a young age, we were very active in the church. We went every single week without a doubt. My parents, forced us to. We didn't have a choice. And from a young age, I played the piano at about the age of 5 or 6. I think I started playing piano for my church, which I think kind of helped cop a resentment for me at a very young age, because I really didn't want to, but I didn't have a choice. So, I just remember as a young child, I was very, very smart, a lot smarter than, a lot of my classmates. I was put into a gifted and talented class, where I guess maybe I kind of got a little entitled, because it wasn't that I was untouchable, but my mom did work at this school with me too. So kind of whatever problems I might have, like my mom helped me to fix it, So maybe enabled me also in a way, and at a young age, I was very tall. I'm 5 feet 9 inches. So for a woman, that's very, very tall in these days, it seems. And I was that tall from a very young age, probably 8 or 9 years old. I was tall. I didn't look like anybody else because I was part Hawaiian, but I wasn't dark skinned, and I didn't Olelo Hawaii. So I fit in with them. I was Vietnamese, and I didn't speak Vietnamese. And I don't think many people in Haiku knew what a Vietnamese person looked like. And I was also white. So, I wasn't white enough, though, to fit in with them because of my dark hair and my brown eyes. So I just really felt out of place, I guess, and I was really tall. So I kind of just had this awkward.
Yeah. And I want to say something real quick. So a lot of people don't know this in Hawaii. So an average height of a woman in the state of Hawaii is about 5'2". So she's like a giant, compared to the other girls.
That's exactly what it was. I mean, all the boys were like up to here on me. And then with my heels, I mean, even today. But another thing also that I got in 5th grade was braces. So
you have really nice teeth, Heather. You got really nice teeth.
Thank you. I am grateful that I did have to wear it for 11 years of my life. So that was, God, it was crazy. So I do, though, remember when I think, as I get more, my head gets clear and I get a little more time is, in my kindergarten or 1st grade, I was stealing stickers from my teacher's desk. It was already in my, I guess, I don't know, my head that to do naughty things, type of a thing. So then I left elementary, and went to intermediate at Kalama, and there was a lot more freedom. I was away from my mom. She didn't work at the school that I was at. So I was like, okay, cool. What can I get away with it here? And I kind of started hanging out with the wrong kids, or what it is I just really wanted to be accepted.
Right. Yes.
I just really wanted to be accepted by other people. And what I realized now is that I just really want to be accepted by my parents, and what I didn't understand at a young age was that they weren't capable of giving me what I needed. A little bit of background about my mom and dad is my mom was a refugee from Vietnam. So she escaped during the war. She was 16 years old, and she left her family and came here all alone to a new country. And then she, I guess, kind of devoted her life to God, because he had helped her to get out of that situation. And then she fell in love with my dad, and instantly they were married and started their family. So what I realized, my mom's very codependent.
Mm-hmm.
And my father, he was born and raised in Maui. He was there and grew up in the time when Hawaiian children weren't allowed to have Hawaiian names at school.
Ah.
Were prohibited. So he was named Lyman. I mean, it's the
Mm-hmm.
weirdest name. I don't know where that came from, you know, like, and they named him Laimana, which is Lyman in Hawaiian. So that he would have a Hawaiian name. It was just, and I don't know what my, you know, my Hawaiian family grew up, but it was just total oppression. I know
Mm-hmm.
that. It's just genocide on our culture as Hawaiian people, you know, for them to not, to prohibit them from speaking. So
Yeah.
he grew up just really restricted and condemned. And I think he just took that mentality with him his whole life, where he just kind of wanted to do what it was to fit, you know, into this square box of what
Mm-hmm.
people wanted him to be. And so that was the mentality that was going on in our home, you know, and they fought a lot. My dad was a very angry person. And we remember he hit my mom a couple times, and he did hit us also as children. You know, there
Mm-hmm.
was a lot of abuse in the home. And of course, me with my defiant alcoholic, I just, you know, I was like, what, you want to, you know, you want to slap me, go ahead. You know, I was just just that type of, I just wanted what I was seeking my mom's approval. And if I could get that attention from her, even in a negative way,
Yeah.
that's what I did as a child. And so I went on to intermediate. You know, I was given an opportunity to go to the mainland with a group of children that were, you know, kind of the better people in the class, you know, the people with good grades. And then I ended up stealing from one of my good friends in school. I like took some of her clothes, and
Mm-hmm.
I like lied about it. And, you know, this kind of just came up like back in my memories, you know, just a couple of days about it. But I just
Yeah.
see that pattern of, if you had something that I wanted, I was just going to take it. You know, that
Mm-hmm.
was a type of person. And if I couldn't get it, like, I'd find a way, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Even if it was wrong, that was
Yeah.
just in my na'au from a child, you know,
Yeah.
because
I
I
can
didn't.
relate.
Yeah. So then I was given, you know, the blessing to go to Kamehameha. I got accepted to Kamehameha schools. And for those of you that don't know, it is a private school on the island of Oahu that there was only boarding at the time. We didn't have a
Mm-hmm.
campus on Maui. So it was such a privilege to be able to go to this school. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
hundreds of children applied for this school, and about 15 to 20 children got accepted. And I was one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that helped, you know, with that entitlement to kind of, I felt entitled once more. You know, I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, look at me, you know, I'm like, I'm all that, you know, this and that.
Mm-hmm.
But I struggled with going away to school because I didn't have my parents, and I didn't have any type of rules and boundaries. I mean, the dorm had rules, but there was always a way to kind of get around it. And it wasn't like your parents, you know, you weren't afraid that they were going to whack you, or like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
that you didn't have to see your parents if they were mad at you. It was like, whatever, you know.
Yeah.
So I grew up pretty fast, you know, and I was living with about 45 other women, and not all of us were healthy. You know, there were women that, you know, suffered from anorexia and bulimia, and I saw that in the dorms. And, you know, as a follower, I just went and I wanted to be the same, even with the negative, you know, actions that they were doing. And I see that throughout my addiction. I did graduate from school, and I got a full ride scholarship to go to BYU in Provo.
Mm-hmm.
And I just threw that right out the window because of my drinking.
Yeah.
There was about 12 of us that had got accepted. So there's a little clan of us, and, you know, we just said the hell with school, and let's just rent cars and go gallivanting all over to Colorado and Las Vegas, because it was just, you know, a 7-8 hour drive. And
Mm-hmm.
we just let our alcohol, I just let my alcoholism, I dropped out of school. I completely failed out my second semester,
Mm-hmm.
and I lost my scholarship that next year.
Mm-hmm.
And then I didn't see anything wrong with it. You know, I just
Yeah.
kept in my disease. I actually came back home, met an amazing man. We got into a relationship. And this is Alika's cousin, you know, he was one of my best friends. And then we got together, and because his mom said that she didn't want us to get married, this alcoholic was like, we're getting married, you know? Like, someone's trying to tell me that I can't do something. Okay, it's on, you know? Like, there's no way that you're going to tell me what to do. And soon enough, you know, my first boyfriend of 6 months, I was married at the age of 22 on my birthday, December 9th, 2002. And, you know, that started another spiral because we both like to, you know, enjoy condiments when we drank too. And it just kind of came along with it. And we drank and we smoked and we did some coke. And we just were having a good time, you know. And then a few years later, I was 25 and I just wasn't feeling really happy. I don't know what it was. It had nothing to do with Kavika, my husband at the time, but I cheated. I cheated in a drunken night in California. And I think I was just so miserable with myself that I wanted to get out of the relationship, but I just didn't know how. And I thought that, you know, if I was the bad person and did the wrong thing, that he would leave me. And that didn't happen. He was very loving, you know, he didn't care. He wanted me back. He wanted to make it work, but something had happened to me. I don't know what it was. And I think maybe it was just God, you know, showing me that I didn't know what was going on with myself. You know, I had no idea who I was. I had found my identity, you know, in a relationship, in a marriage, and I was miserable, you know, and I was sicker than ever. I mean, I remember I would take Kavika to work, and this is at 7 a.m. And on the way home, I would stop at my Coke dealer's house and do a bump and then get a little bag. And that's how I started my day, you know. And I remember time and time again thinking, like, I'm not going to do that today, you know, but that's just what addiction does to you. You know, you do things and you hurt people. But thank God, you know, for recovery where you can try to right the wrongs now. And so I ended up walking away from that relationship. We were separated for a really long time. And I moved up to Oahu. So that was in like 2010. And I thought, okay, I'm going to start anew. I'm going to start something new, this and that. And I just ended up going right back into the same thing. You know, I had a job at a nightclub, and the drinks were flowing, you know, it was easy enough to get cocaine. And I hit an even lower low. I had a drug dealer, you know, encouraging me to sell drugs, basically. Oh, why don't you do this? And it actually popped in my mind, oh, that's a good idea, you know. But there was too many times when I couldn't stop dipping into the bag where, you know, I didn't make much money. So that was a flip. And I just struggled, you know, with coming in and out of the rooms for a while. My first DUI was at the age of 21. So I was highly intoxicated. I had gone out to a nightclub, and when I was driving home, I was in a complete blackout. I rammed into a guardrail with my friend in the car. He got out, and then I continued to take off and keep driving home. And then I somehow ripped my door off of my Honda Civic and kept driving down the road. And when the cop finally pulled me over, I vividly remember this. If there's one thing, I just told him, I don't need my door to drive home. I'm good. I really thought he was going to let me go. Like, I'm not even like, I was like, did I know? He put me in the back of the ambulance because I had gotten into what, 2 accidents right on the way there. And somehow my sneaky little ass snuck out of the hospital, okay, without getting arrested that night. Like, don't even ask me how. Like, that was just me and my disease, just doing this crazy ass shit that like I would never do sober. So that was my first DUI. My second DUI I got in 2005. I was at another nightclub. There was a younger boy that I knew that we were fooling around, and he wanted a ride home, and I went to give him a ride home, and ended up, I was driving down the road and the cop was coming up the road, and I think I must have swerved over on the middle line, and he ended up turning around and like chasing us, and I'm over there running from the fucking cop, like coming down Baldwin Avenue. I don't know if you guys know the road, but it's not very, you can't really run away anywhere.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Dummy, I ended up flipping my vehicle, okay, with my friend in the car, and like totally totaled my car right there. Thank God, you know, my friend got away. He like, his friends came to pick him up or whatever, because he was actually underage. But I was arrested, and that was my second DUI. So that was two within 5 years, I believe. So it was automatic jail time for me for this one. But I was working at a job at this place called Mama's Fish House, and I worked 5 days a week there, and I only had to stay 2 nights in jail. So it all worked out where I worked my 5 days. I went into jail, and then I came back out and went right back to work. So for me, I really didn't suffer too many consequences, besides having to go to AA and, you know, get those things signed. But I signed all of those myself pretty much. You know, that's just the way it was. And I just wasn't ready to hear, you know. So DUIs have been kind of something prominent. Once I moved back up here in 2015, I was facing another DUI charge, actually. I had gone to work. I was selling leis in Waikiki. So I was the flower lady that walks around the restaurants.
Oh, yeah.
And I had met a guy, and he bought my basket. So he bought all the flowers. So I was like, oh, I'm done. You know, I'm done for the day. And he's like, oh, will you join me for a drink? And of course I sat down for a drink, and then it turned into 10 more, you know, and I just thought I was on top of the world, and the cop pulled me over, and this is the crazy person that I am. I jumped out of the driver's seat into the passenger's seat and told him that I wasn't driving the car, okay? Like, oh my God. I mean, seriously. So I still had to face that charge, you know, of my DUI. So I was facing that in 2016, and I remember my court date was on my birthday, and it was the last meeting. You know, if they didn't have any evidence, they were gonna actually let me go. Because I didn't blow into the
breathalyzer.
Yeah, because my lawyer previous had said, if you ever get pulled over again, just don't blow, because they won't have evidence, you know. And I was like, thank God for that, because I probably would have been facing much harsher of a charge if I did. But on the 9th, they dismissed my case. And what did this alcoholic do? Straight to Long's, bought me a bottle and some Red Bull, and hit the beach. So how did I finally make it back here? So January 7th, 2019, so almost 2 years ago, I decided, okay, like, this is it. I've got to grow up. You know, I'm almost 40. Like, I can't be doing this. Like, where's my life gone? And I got sober. I had a boyfriend at the time. We were just very new in our relationship, but he was very supportive of me. He was like, whatever it takes, I'll help you, you know. And so I got 6 months under my belt. I started a new job at the Four Seasons here at Ko'olina. My boyfriend had just got a promotion to be a general foreman on Maui at a new job there. And we were living a good life. I had moved in with him at the time. And in June, I believe it was the 7th, I'm pretty sure, June 7th, he came home for the weekend because he would work on Maui. And I copped a resentment because he didn't want to come out with me to this new restaurant with me and my girlfriends. And I went back out and I drank. And just the humiliation that I felt and disappointment in myself, but more from him, I think. It was just it was just the most awful. I just remember he was like, didn't you think about your 6 months? And honestly, I didn't even think about it. You know what I mean? That's just how sick I still was, even in that little bit of time I had. So he said, well, you can continue to keep drinking, but I'm not going to be with you. And, sometimes God places people in our lives as just divine angels, people that can carry a message to us that we can only hear from them, and that's exactly what had happened. I had heard him so loud and clear that this wasn't working for me, and that nothing good was going to come if I continued to drink. And what I did that day was I listened, but I took my boyfriend and our relationship and I placed that in my life as my higher power. I realize that now. And I don't suggest that for anybody. It's like they say in the program, you've got to put God first in your sobriety. And I just didn't, I thought he was just this angel that saved me and that I owed everything to him. That's exactly where I was sitting. For a lot of my first year of my sobriety, I had a job, thank God. I had this great job that I worked 5 days a week and Justin was gone. So I was able to, kind of work on myself. And I had reached out and I had got a sponsor actually, but my sponsor was very, just really lax, I think she knew how defiant I was at first and how hard it was for me to get some days. So she really didn't want to push the program on me. But as I look back now, I'm like, shit, I wish that I kind of, I didn't let her do that to me. Or I kind of wish I showed up more. But I think for me in my recovery and just my disease, what I realized is that I really just needed to get some time. I needed to have a big chunk of time so that I didn't want to lose that, because I had gone, like I said, I had 6 months, and then I went right back out. So I was just terrified that I was going to do that again, So I made a year. I wasn't working my steps, barely working my steps. I was calling my sponsor though. I just really didn't have much of a connection with my higher power. And I wasn't working my spiritual program, which is what this whole entire program is based upon, I made a year in June 9th, 2020. So I had my year and something clicked. I don't know what it was. And I just, I went through a bunch of things. I lost my job in March at the Four Seasons due to COVID. We all got put on furlough. That was really tough for me because, that was my distraction, right? That was what I was using all my attention on so that I didn't have to focus on myself. And then I ended up walking away from that relationship in June, actually right after my 1 year, because I realized that there was a lot more toxic things going on within the relationship. And it had nothing to do with me, but at the time it had everything to do with me. So I was just taking all of this other stuff on that I really didn't need to, not wanting to focus on myself, not wanting to look in the mirror, not wanting to work my steps. And I was able to secure a room with this amazing man in the program. And once I came into his home and I saw him working his program, it just made me just like really motivated, because I was like, wow, okay, this is what I need to be doing. You know, he would get on like 2 to 3 meetings a day, and always just be talking with his sponsees and sponsors and whatnot. So I remember I started doing my step 4 in June. Okay, so I started on my step 4, and it just brought up so much stuff for me, like so much stuff, and a lot of it was coming from my parents, because I didn't realize how much resentments I had towards them. You know, I was putting them responsible for my entire life and the choices that I had made and decisions that I made. I had always felt like they did this to me, you know, the way that I was raised, the way that they are, you know, and what I'm still, so I basically started the 4th step, and I have been working on it for like the past 6 months, slowly but surely. But what just happened in my sobriety is that I got a new sponsor. I reached out to the woman and I just told her, like, you know, I think I've trained you to kind of just let me do my own little program and whatever, but I need more structure, and I need somebody that's going to really hold me accountable and, like, you know, not let me get away with it, you know, because that's the type of person I want to get away with things. You know, I want to be lazy. I want you to do the work for me, and then I can be like, oh, okay, yeah, now I got it. You know what I mean? Like, that's just the type of person that I am, you know? So it's just like, I'm just so grateful for this program. In this past year, I thought that, you know, I had a pretty good life, but what God is putting on my heart is that everything in my life I place before him. I realize, you know, I replace my relationship before him, my boyfriend, you know, my job. And what 2020 taught me is that none of that is important in my life. You know, of course, the job, of course, the home, you know, all those things are essential, you know, to be safe and to be alive. But the ego that I had, you know, with like, oh yeah, I work at the Four Seasons, you know, and like thinking that like that makes me better than other people or something, you know what I mean? Or like, oh yeah, well, my boyfriend this and this and this, you know. Okay, what am I doing? You know, so this past year has just been like a total breaking down of like my entire house. You know, I thought I had this little like house built here, and I thought I was doing okay, but God's just like tore everything down, you know, and like eliminated people, eliminated, you know, whoever, because they're not supposed to be a part of my story.
Yes.
You know, because they were taking away, and maybe the relationship that I had, that was what was toxic in my life. Do you know what I mean? That person who I had placed on this pedestal wasn't that person, you know, and the person that I was seeking in him was my God, you know, my higher power. And today I can build my life upon my higher power, and just knowing how much more he has in store for me, you know. And that's the choice that I get to make today in my recovery. You know, I get to wake up and I look at this beautiful view. I'm overlooking Kaneohe. When I moved into the master bedroom in my landlord's house. Like, I mean, like, that alone was a blessing for me. You know, I was like, wow, God just provided, because I was freaking out about, oh, I can't leave my boyfriend. Where am I going to go? You know, and that kept me, that fear of like, what am I going to do? Am I not going to find, you know, just like we said, just fear. I had just lived my entire life in fear. And a lot of the fear that I held was fear of my own success and my own abilities. You know, I was so afraid to be this divine woman and to enjoy the blessings that God has blessed with me. You know, like my talent as playing piano, I always thought that was a bad thing, but that was God's blessing on my life from a very young age, you know. And when I sit here and cry and I show compassion to somebody, Like that is God's blessing in my life, because today I can feel my emotions, you know. If I'm sad, then I feel it, you know, but it doesn't have to make me go to that place where it's pour me, pity me, pour me a drink, you know, oh, I gotta go numb, or, you know, I gotta go smoke a joint or do a line or whatever it might be, you know. Like I can own my feelings and know it's gonna pass. Like this too shall pass. And like there's so much better days ahead, you know, if we just keep along this road of recovery. And so, yeah, I guess I've just, you know, I feel like I have 18 months, but for me in my recovery, I really feel like I just have about 6 months of honest, you know, recovery working that I've done. Because for my whole first year, I was just kind of just getting along, you know, like white knuckling, like they said, you know, just really like, and I was losing the rest of my mind, you know, because I wasn't working my program, and I wasn't reaching out for help, and I wasn't connecting with others, and I wasn't seeking my higher powers direction, you know, and for his will. I still wanted that control. I mean, even with my ex, I just barely have accepted, like they say, you know, that we can't even be friends, you know, because I kept trying to like, God closed that door when I left the relationship, and I kept wanting to open it. I kept turning it back and being like, you know, I'm here if you need, or da 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 da, because I want to help the sick and the suffering, right? You know? I want to help everybody else and myself, right? So I think I got the deadbolt on it this time.
That's so funny that I've done that. Like I can relate with everything you're saying. Like you were talking about, like you know, putting everything else before God. Like, see, I would claim, no, God is first place in my life, but the reality was the drugs was first place, the alcohol, the women, not even relationships, just women,
Right.
You know, not relationships I was in, you know, certain careers, you know, but I always do that, and then you know, in my fourth step too, you talked about that, man. Oh my gosh, that one brought me so much freedom, because at the end of it, especially the resentments, I had proof on paper in my own handwriting, and I was no longer a victim anymore. I could see my truth. I could see what my part in it was, and it set me free. Because, you know, with the girls in my life, you know, I cannot be alone. I cannot. I'm gonna hang on to you forever, even if I'm miserable, even if you're miserable, and you know. But then I would also have other ones where it was mutual. We, you know, we liked each other, we loved each other. But then when, like, you know, they would leave me, like it was because I'm applying and putting so much pressure on this relationship. It was not designed to sustain. And when they leave, all of a sudden it's their fault. But I never thought about what I did, what was my part in it. I never did until I came and did my fourth step with my sponsor. Man, it's amazing.
So true. I know. You know, I don't think that I realized that I did that with my ex until after I was out of the relationship, and, you know, kind of working on and yeah, I haven't been able to speak with him about it, and I don't know if that'll be in my amends, you know, but I'm taking it one step at a time. So now I'm starting, you know, from step one all over again with my new sponsor. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what direction it'll go now that I have a much clearer mind, you know, and I'm not fogged by my ex and all of that, and my want and that just kind of a longing. Like you said, yeah, it's seriously, I definitely cannot be alone either, you know, so I totally feel you on that.
And then, you know, you said something else about, you know, feeling our feelings. Like when I first got sober, I was so afraid to feel anxiety, to feel anger, to feel love, to just feel, because every time I felt something that I didn't like, boom, straight to the bottle, straight to the dope man's house. And then boom, 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 boom. So I can avoid feeling all these feelings. But I had a good like foundation, I guess you could say. Early on, I never went to treatment. I tried to get into treatment. I didn't have no insurance, no nothing. I was in California. So I just started going to meetings, and I went into a sober living. I was in a sober living for 1 year. And you know, and the rest is history, pretty much. You know, but I had a sober living which had some structure. I was going to meetings every day, for well, like the first like year, 2 years. I was boom, boom, boom every day. I was going to meetings. I was meeting with my sponsor every week. Like I can count on one hand since I've known him how much times we've like missed. You know, was when I was going through my steps, and it was typically because like I'm going on a camping trip with people in the program, or he's going out of town. It was never I'm tired, bro. I don't like meet today. Can we meet next week? Like I never did that because I was so sick and tired of being sick and tired, basically, where it just hurt too much. You know, my dad would always tell me, bro, you can either go through the pain of change or the pain of staying the same. For me, I was just done, bro. I was like, I don't like feel like this anymore. I don't want this kind of life. I don't like how everything is going. And then so I always knew that. So I'm like, okay, when I felt like, oh, I'm tired, I don't want, because I just got home from work, but I take a nap because I worked the early shift. I don't want to meet my sponsor, but I pushed you and I did it because I didn't want to keep having the same life, the same way of thinking. Because, you know, I got one cousin back home in Hawaii. You never met him because he was a little kid. He probably was only like 5 or something,
Okay.
but he just came out of prison. I think he was in prison for 4 years. And you know, I know some people that they stayed sober in prison because you can get drugs is just as easy in prison as out of prison to get. I don't know if I never spoke to him though, but I don't know if he stayed clean while he was in prison. But I mean, as soon as he came out, that he just picked off right where he left off. He just picked back up, boom, 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 and you know he's stealing people's cars. He getting beat up. Somebody stole his truck. You know, all kind of different things because the thinking never changed. Like my body can be confined for 10, 20 years, and then I come out, my thinking is still the same. Nothing's gonna change. I will continue to go back and do everything that I'm normally used to doing because nothing changed upstairs. There was no, you know, the doctor's opinion. It talks about that. Until we can have an entire psychic change, there's very little hope for our recovery. So, you know, I knew all these things, and I was like, man, I cannot. I just wanted it, and then I just did what they suggested to do. Really, that was it. But thank you so much for sharing that with us. You know that's a good one, bro. I'm never gonna forget the story about you telling the cop you don't need a door to drive home.
Yeah, you
You
know,
know?
treatment, I always thought like, or now that when I look back on my life, I'm like, I wish they offered me treatment. You
Hmm.
know, nobody ever offered me that, or I probably would have taken it, you know, and then I
Yeah.
wouldn't have had to spend, 15 years of my life. I mean, I don't understand what going to jail at 25 years old for 2 DUIs, like, you don't think I have a problem, it's kind of, so for those of you out there listening that have the chance to go to treatment, please do. I mean,
Yeah.
I know it'll bless your life. I see so many miracles happen, and I just, wonder, like, or I wish that I was even given that opportunity to go to treatment. So enjoy
Yeah.
it if you're there.
Yeah. So Heather, as we wind this down, I'm gonna ask you some more questions, okay?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, right on. So the next, well, this question is, what have you learned about yourself in the process of recovery so far? What have you learned?
Um, well, as I stated, I've learned that I am very prideful
Uh,
and egotistical. I can be when it comes to asking for help or
mhm.
admitting that I don't know what to do, you
Right.
know. And because I know this, I can address that and I can
Hmm.
reach out now because I know
That's
that I
right.
need the help. And my hand is always out for anybody that needs help, also. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm very stubborn and very defiant, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm working
Everything
on
you're
those
saying is the
too.
same true for me too.
Yeah. And I'm learning that I'm a very sensitive person,
Mhm.
as I think most of us alcoholics are,
Oh.
Um, and I can accept that today, because that feels good to me because at least I can feel as
Hmm.
opposed to detaching from my emotions like a lot of people do. We got to make hard. Yeah, I get them. I get
Yeah.
them. Blah,
Yeah.
blah,
Yeah.
blah. Like, right, real men don't cry. But what I learned coming into these rooms, like the most beautiful thing that I love to see is a man crying
Uh-huh.
because it's showing his vulnerability and his
Yeah.
transparency and that he can, allow himself to feel love, you know, and to accept love. Because a lot of us don't know how to do that. A lot of us don't know how to do that. And then another thing is that I've learned is, you know, that I'm codependent, that I'm a people pleaser, and I have a lot of character defects.
Oh, as do I. As do I.
But I've learned that my story can help others too, you know.
That's right. Yeah.
I think if we just all speak our truth and we just own what it is that we've done in our past, whether it was a mistake, you know, and we can always make it right now. That's the beauty of recovery and sobriety. We have another chance to live a real life, you know, a life where we're present and we're free.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so the next question is, do you still have difficulty and challenges now that you're sober? You know, because a lot of people think once you get sober, oh, you have a great life, and then, you know, that's it.
Oh yeah, no. So yeah, well, right now I'm looking for a job. So I am thankfully collecting unemployment. So I'm gonna see how that goes. I don't know what's happening with all the COVID, but I am looking for work. So there is difficulties. But I'm going back to school. So that's something that's really helped me. And I think really the only difficulty for me is when I see somebody that I love relapse.
Yeah.
You know, because it hurts. And I had a sponsee ask me to sponsor her, and then 2 weeks later she was dead. You know, and that's the reality of this program, is that alcohol is cunning, baffling, and powerful. You know, and it takes a lot of us to our graves, and we're not able to come back from our relapse.
Yeah.
You know, we're not able to say, oh yeah, I'll come back to AA when I'm ready, you know.
Yeah.
Like, if you've been exposed, you probably have a problem, and there's so much hope within the rooms, you know. There just really is, if you just give it a little bit of a chance, you know. And it just breaks my heart every time, but at the same time, it helps me. It solidifies that I'm doing the right thing, that I'm where exactly where I'm supposed to be, you know, that I'm working my program, and it makes me just want to work it harder, so that there's no question about, you know, I mean, having a drink for me, if you were to ask me, there's just no way in hell that I would ever even fantasize the drink, because I've already spent 20 years of my life fantasizing that drink, you know, and I'm here at square one now, you know.
Yeah, you know, all these you know, again, like, it's like, you know, the more that you talk, the more I can relate and identify with the feelings, like being defiant, a lot of pride, ego. Like, I learned all these things about me. Oh, you know which one was just so hard for me to swallow was, man, I found out I'm not the nice guy I thought I was. I'm not Mr. Aloha. I'm Mr. Aloha. But when you make me mad, then I'm not. You know what I mean? Like, but in my mind, I don't think about all these things. You know, it's just, but oh, what's it about? Oh, I love you, but I love you. You know, all this kind of stuff. You know, and you know, nobody likes to admit complete defeat. Like, nobody. You know, I never wanted to. I don't want to raise my hand and tell the world that, yeah, I'm bodily and mentally different from everybody else when it comes to drugs, drinking, you know, all these kind of things. But what happened for me is I learned that in order for me to get the victory, I had to admit defeat. That's how I got the victory, you know. And oh, man, that was tough, because all the pride and the ego is all in the way, and you know. But that's something that's a good example of God doing for me what I cannot do. He did that. He made that possible for me. But I became willing and I surrendered first. Then he made that possible. I'm like, who, you know. But okay. So this is the last question.
Perfect.
So, what would you say to somebody right now that's still struggling out there with drugs and alcohol?
There is, you know, there's such an easier and softer way to live, and that's within the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. You know, life gets hard, and that's what this program is about. It teaches us how to live life on life's terms. You know, we all want a perfect life. We all want things. But what it is what do we really need? You know, and what we need is peace of mind. We need self-love, you know, and that can only be found by getting sober and staying sober, and then working the steps with someone that you love. You know, it's like they say in the program, you know, let us love you until you can love yourself. And that's
Yeah.
exactly the truth. I hated myself when I walked into these rooms. I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't stand myself. I
Mm-hmm.
wanted so bad not to be sick and suffering. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I didn't want to admit that I had a problem
Mm-hmm.
and that alcohol and drugs were ruining my life, you know. But once I was able to be honest and be willing, you know, and accept God into my life, or my higher power, for those of you that struggle with, you know, that God, just accepting something higher than myself, that's when a miracle happened, you know. Just my life is just, I just live a life beyond nothing that I could have imagined, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it doesn't get better overnight, you know. If you're
Yeah.
just coming into the rooms or getting sober, like, there's detox and there's all these different things that you're going to struggle with. But if you just keep showing up for yourself, and then you just keep loving yourself a little bit more and more every day, you know, the miracle happens, because that's all that it is. We're just learning how to love ourselves all over. That's what it's been for me, recovery. You know, it's just, I can look in the mirror now and I can tell myself that I love you, Heather, you know, and but I do, you know what I mean? And that's just such a blessing for me today.
You know, I'm trying really hard not to cry. Oh my
No.
God. I was like, okay, you can stop already. You know, but hey, Heather, thank you so much, man. It's been
Oh,
such an amazing ride. You know, our paths crossed, then we separated for like, I don't know how many, a couple decades or something. And then, you know, we meet back up, you know, through social media, and we found out, oh wow, we're both sober now, and you know, we got a story to tell, and that's the purpose. That's why I started doing this. You know, when COVID happened, a lot of stuff shut down, and you know, nothing. I always say this: something that will never shut down is social media, and people who are struggling with addiction are always on social media. So thank you so much for your honesty, your transparency, your vulnerability. You are a great example for somebody to follow, Heather. Thank you so much, man, for being here. And I'll be in touch with you again. We got to do this again.
Guaranteed.
Yeah?
Thanks,
Okay.
Alicia. Thank you so much
Okay.
for having me.
Much
Thank you to
mahalo.
everybody out there. Aloha. Love you.
Okay. Aloha.
Aloha.
Okay, guys, that was my friend Heather. So I always say this: if you guys got a story to tell of how you recovered from what we call a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body, or drugs and alcohol, if you prefer, I would love to hear it. You know, Heather, I haven't seen her in so long, man, but she got an amazing story. It's very encouraging for me. And, you know, even though I've been sober for a while, I love to hear people's stories of how they did it, because it's encouraging, and it inspires hope. You know, like I will always want to get inspired by listening to somebody else on how they got sober, no matter how much time I got. You know, and she said something that is absolutely true. I'm just going to reword it. You know, recovery doesn't happen in a day, it happens daily. So thank you guys for watching.